Well, there we have it, guys. The World Cup opener has now finished. France taking this one 29 points to 13. A very comfortable scoreline by the end of it. Not the way that I expected it to be going. I said in the preview video that I thought this might be one score either way. It looked like it was going that way for a long time, but France exploding towards the end of that game. So the game's just finished on my end. So I thought we'd film. We'll go over some full-time thoughts, give some reactions, break down a couple of the big talking points about this game. Make sure you drop down in the comment section your thoughts on this game, because man, there was quite a lot to go over. A couple of interesting decisions made by referees as well. There'll be a lot of talking points around this one. So France taking this one quite comfortably in the end, 16 points. It is New Zealand's first ever pool stage loss. That sounds mad. The first one ever. They're now 31 from 32. It's still pretty good. I mean, no one's going to be complaining about that as a ratio. But their first ever pool loss. France will be really happy with the outcome of that game. The first half, though, very, very interesting. There was a clear indication from New Zealand that they wanted just to try and take control of the tempo of the game. It came across in that first half much more than the second half about the way they wanted to play the game. The line-outs, really slow. The scrummaging, really slow at getting the ball in, really detract from the game, slow it down a lot, and then as soon as you go on the offensive, it is about pace, it is about attack, and that's how they actually led to the first try coming in from Mark Telea. All began right back from Rico Ioane, breaking through off the back of a lineup that took an age to get in, but then France had to try and switch back on very quickly. A couple of the centre partnership for France, not quite as organised as they wanted to have been from this one, making all the room into that France half, and then a lovely crossfield kick coming in from Beauden Barrett, and bouncing nicely for Telea to go into his hands. Damien Penaud, a little bit, I don't know, deep in this one. I think throughout the game, to be honest, he wasn't really marking that wing. They definitely chucked Mark Telea very far out on that left wing, so it was quite hard to mark him up. But yeah, Damien Penaud cutting quite a lot in this game, and it did lead to Telea getting a couple of tries in this game. That was the only try of the first half, and you had to say, in that first half, I really felt like New Zealand had the better style of attack. They were the ones going forwards. They were the ones making the most meters. They were the ones that looked more like they were actually going to be scoring tries in this game. France were just sitting back. They were taking those 3 points, going through the boot of Ramos as we expected. I sort of talked about that in the preview video. But in the terms of attacking in the game, you felt like New Zealand were actually on the front foot. They felt much more sort of composed. They were just sort of organised, letting the attack go. Sometimes the ball was dropping back. Beauden Barrett or Mwanga just clearing their lines. They're just sort of more organised. One of the stories for this game, the New Zealand discipline. Just letting them down, dropping the ball or giving away silly penalties or some missed passes, not only ruining their own attack, but handing points over to France. Ramos, we know this now. Basically, if you give him a penalty from the 50-metre line onwards, they'll take 3, and more often than not, he'll get it. He had an okay game from the boot today. Not, his 100% record that we're so used to seeing from Ramos, but, still doing pretty well. And I think from a New Zealand standpoint, you might be kind of glad that he missed a couple of kicks, because 35 to 13 sounds like a real monster score by the end of this one. France, though, looked better overall in terms of the set piece. The scrums and the line-outs really going well for France in this one. They stole a line-out in that first half. They got 2 scrum penalties, both against Ethan de Groot. Antonio with just mega driving in the scrummers. We're absolutely used to getting them two penalties for them. So France went in at halftime 9 points to 8 in the lead, even though it felt like New Zealand with a more attacking threat, just going through the boot of Ramos, keeping them safe from the ill discipline from New Zealand. And I have to say that first half then completely mirrored itself in the second half as well, because France went on the offensive. They went for that big attack straight away. New Zealand got the turnover penalty, moved their way up the field a little bit more, went on the attack. Little chip kick by Ardy Sarvé. I love to see a forward doing a little kick over the top. Collected by Will Jordan, shipping it out wide to the wing, and it goes out through another lucky bounce pass, gets out to Mark Telea to go over for his second try. So he scored in the first 3 minutes of the first half, and he scored in the first 3 minutes of the second half. So New Zealand again up and running. You feel like it's going somewhere. Mwanga missing his second conversion of the evening, so there's 4 points missed out for New Zealand. Both really tough kicks right from the touchline. But a game like this, where the scoreboard can be so even for so much of the game, those kicks really important to keep your own momentum up. But astonishingly, after that 43rd minute, we have nothing to talk about in terms of a New Zealand scoreline. That is it. That is the last score of the game for them. And France really took a hold of this. They went on a much more attacking threat. Damien Penaud came into the game I don't know where he was in the first half. I only saw him when he was not where he should have been in terms of defence. In the second half, though, much better. Looks so much more aggressive. Out on the wing, running with the ball in hand or cutting back inside on someone's shoulders, making a nuisance of himself. I'm guessing they had a word with him at halftime because he really, really stepped his game up in that second half. And it came along with the ill discipline from New Zealand, didn't fix itself. More penalties coming in. Ramos kicking more threes. We had the yellow card. Will Jordan taking out Ramos in the air. I'm sure that'll be a bit of a talking point, so we'll jump on that quickly. For me, I thought a yellow card was probably the correct call there. I think Will Jordan's eyes are on the ball from very far away leading up to it. But we all know this now, when one player is in the air and the other player isn't, the onus falls on you to, make sure they're going to land safely and not to make contact with them. So even though he's looking at the ball, you've got to have an awareness that Ramos was in the air, took out his legs, landed on his side. It's not on his shoulder, it's not on his head. The referee in the bunker review said, not a dangerous tackle, so not a red card. Happy with the yellow card. And to be fair, I was kind of happy with the yellow card for that one. But New Zealand managed it quite well, to be fair. Over the course of that 10 minutes, they only conceded 3 points, which is still very good, after being a man down. Ramos did miss one kick as well. It could have been 6 points, but, only conceding 3, and that's pretty good. But that penalty count for New Zealand was really brutal. I made a couple of notes of them as we were going along. In terms of France penalties, we had one in the 4th minute, 19th minute, 25th minute, 29th minute, 33 minutes, 55 minutes, 58 minutes, 64 minutes, 72. Just every 4 to 5 minutes, there was just another penalty handed to France. And it just keeps France in the game when you've got someone like Ramos who can kick for 3 or just allow you to move further up the field. By the 70th minute, that penalty count was 4 to France, 11 to New Zealand. You talk about the international teams, they want to keep it below 10. 4 at 70 minutes for France is absolutely astonishing. Their discipline was really, really good in this game. They really didn't let New Zealand get any sort of foothold by giving away those easy penalties. France also getting a couple tries in the second half, which was nice to see them get over that try line. Damien Penaud getting his in the corner. Could have had 2 in the corner. Got tackled by a sprinting Richie Mo'unga. I don't know how on earth he got back for that. It's an absolute sitter for Damien Penaud. There was a superb tackle though by Richie Mo'unga to be able to stop Damien Penaud from scoring his first one, but he did go over for a second one. Nice to see him get on the scoreboard after a very quiet first half. And then later in that second half, Jaminet in the 78th minute, again off the back of a New Zealand issue, not backing up their own breakdown enough, got the turnover. Maxime Lucu getting that box kick over the top. And as felt the way in that second half for New Zealand, the ball bouncing really awkwardly above Richie Mo'unga's head, and Jaminet on a superb line, jumping over the air, catching that one and dotting it down. Both tries and the disallowed try, to be fair, were some real, heart-stopping moments in this game. Really nice to be seeing such high intensity tries in this one. Hopefully we get to see a bit more of that throughout the rest of the World Cup. A couple of other little talking points. Gregory Audrey got man of the match. And to be fair, though, I think it was a couple of French players that stuck their hands out. I thought Jalibert actually played very well. I was very impressed by how much he stood up in this one. Damien Penaud in that second half was very good. In the first half, I don't think it was quite much, but I can see a couple of people thinking maybe Damien Penaud for that. The last thing I sort of mention, the refereeing decisions in this game, a little bit weird for me. He refereed the game pretty evenly across the majority of the game, but there were a couple that really stood out to me that I thought this is a very strange thing they're trying to incorporate. We'll keep a bit of an eye on this as we go throughout the World Cup. We saw a couple of penalties going against France that I thought were kind of harsh just because of the nature of rugby. They had one penalty go against them for a player running offside in the kickoff. And it's something we see every team do. I'm not sure why specifically that one was much worse. I think New Zealand's kickoff before that one, there was New Zealand players offside, so I'm not sure why that was so heavily focused on. We went back for that scrum because he was offside, and then you get to see Aaron Smith. We've got a scrum on the halfway line. You can see where the middle of the scrum is, and Aaron Smith just chucks the ball completely to his own side. I feel like if you're going to do those pedantic penalties that every team does, I have no issue with that. I actually would love to see more refs clamp down on that sort of stuff. But it just felt kind of weird that it was a bit like pedantic about one thing, but not other things that every team do. Like, oh, you can't run offside at the kickoff, but you can absolutely just throw the ball over to your side in the scrum. I thought that was a little bit weird. There was also a couple for coming in at the side of the ruck. One of France's very few penalties was classed as France coming in at the side of the ruck, and about 3 rucks before that from a New Zealand standpoint, I saw New Zealand players go in from an angle on that one as well. Don't know, just a couple of weird points from the refereeing, being a bit pedantic in some areas, but then not in others. I enjoy the pedantic penalties. I would like to see balls put into scrums straight. I would like to see players have to be onside from the kickoff, but I think they need to be, more cohesive and more sort of coherently added to the game, and not just pick up the one or two that were there. There was a couple as well that the TMO missed that I thought was bizarre. There was one ruck where Dalton Papali'i was trying to get back onto his own side, and he definitely dragged his foot along the back of the ruck and kicked the ball out of the ruck, trying to get back onside, and the TMO let that one go. There was a couple of forward passes for both teams I thought were missed in this game as well. A couple of just odd things missed in the game considering how pedantic they were being about other things, but on the whole, I was kind of glad by the way the referee was doing it. There was a couple of those ones where we saw obstruction with players where they purposely run into another player trying to get an obstruction penalty, and the referee was having none of it. So I really enjoyed that. I really glad to see that he wasn't letting those penalties just sort of be given. But as the World Cup goes on, we'll be keeping a bit of an eye out for referees just to see if those rules are going to be stamped down a little bit more. I kind of like the idea of them stamping out a few of those players running offside at kickoffs and stuff. I quite like the idea of them doing that. Just needs to be, implemented evenly for me. But France taking this one with a superb scoreline. They'll move to the top of Pool A. New Zealand not even taking a losing bonus point from this one because they were too far outside of the score range as well. So France go to the top, and I have to say I feel like that most likely means France will probably go on to win this pool. No disrespect to any of the other teams, but France looking very good in this game. I think it's going to be very hard to knock France off that top spot in Pool A. But there we have it, guys. That's the little roundup for today of the full-time result. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section about this game. But man, if all the rest of the games are going to end up looking like this one, we're going to have an awesome World Cup. And of course, we have a bunch of really fun games going on this weekend, guys. So I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.